All right, I want to welcome everybody here today. I see farmers and residents directly affected by the land grab, members of the Wilmot Citizens Action Network and other supporters here today, and I thank them all for being here. I also want to thank our future Premier, Marit Stiles, for stopping here first because she knows farmland is important. I also want to thank some of the other Waterloo Region candidates who are here that also support this cause from Kitchener Centre, Kitchener South Hespeler, and Waterloo. And I want to say a very special thank you to Stuart Snyder for hosting us here on his farm, a farm he said they'll have to drag him off of. I'm Jodi Szimanski, the NDP candidate for Kitchener-Conestoga, and I stand with the farmers and landowners of the 770 acres. When I started seriously thinking about running, the tipping point for me was learning more about the fight for farmland. No one should ever be threatened to move off of their land, and we need farmers now more than ever. Born in Durham, Ontario, I grew up around farms. My favorite thing to do as a kid was to go help in the barn, feeding the horses and chickens, taking a bottle out to a new calf, or playing with the goats at my uncle's farm. I always wanted to help however I could, even if it was before dawn. I'm still like a kid when I visit my friend's farm, where we store our tent trailer after camping season every year. I leave my husband and hers to cover it up while I go visit the barn and go out to the cattle pasture. I pledge to stand behind the farmers and residents of this community to protect this farmland and all farmland. After 7 years of Doug Ford, we haven't seen affordable housing, more doctors, school repairs, better funding for post-secondary funding, but he still wants to spend money on 770 acres of prime farmland that aren't his to have. And we don't even know what exactly he wants this for. All we know is some undisclosed industrial megasite. One of the ministers stated that they gave money to the region of Waterloo to help purchase this land. And this is more of your tax dollars going towards something you didn't ask for. And there's been even more waste. On some of the land that they purchased, they destroyed 160 acres unnecessarily, weeks before it could have been harvested. That was 2.8 million pounds of grain, corn potential destroyed. Then there's the secrecy. Mike Harris Jr. said the region took this approach of secrecy. Doug Ford said at the plowing match that he didn't understand the secrecy. And the regional chair has used the word obligation when referring to the province and the NDAs. The secrecy is undemocratic. Why won't anyone give these fine folks the answers to the questions they're asking? They deserve a transparent government. We all do. The region and Ford keep pointing fingers at each other. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because these people are unwilling hosts. Ford has said he won't force people off land if they're unwilling hosts, yet this saga continues, and the farmers can't plant their crops because of the threats. Ford is threatening to take away land and livelihood and feeding us lies. That's not okay with me, and it shouldn't be okay with the people of this riding. Next, I'd like to invite my friend and fellow candidate, Catherine Fife, who has dedicated much time to this, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. As stated, my name is Catherine Fife. I'm the candidate for the riding of Waterloo. And I want to just point out that this is Marit Stiles' first major stop in this campaign to Stuart Snyder's farm to make sure that farmers in the province of Ontario are respected. Now, I want to thank the farmers and the whole Wilmot community, but actually farmers across this province, because what they see happening here in Wilmot is really something that should never happen to any farmer, ever, right? It's disrespectful to the process. We, as local taxpayers, indeed, have seen no plan for this undisclosed mega industrial plant. We've seen no financial costing of this plant and the cost that it will incur to other citizens across Waterloo region. And we've also seen this very annoying habit of finger pointing between the provincial government and the regional government. We now finally understand, though, that Doug Ford is driving funding this land grab. And so we must hold Doug Ford to account, because if the province of Ontario is not funding the land grab here in Wilmot, this will end. One final point. When I've walked in these fields with farmers and had conversations in coffee shops with the farmers, what the main point that they really do want to drive home is that, they are small businesses. They are small businesses that feed cities, that drive the economy. The GDP for here in Waterloo region is highest for farming than any other sector. And yet Doug Ford feels no shame in destabilizing our strengths as an economic engine in the province of Ontario. So we're willing to fight for Wilmot, we're willing to fight for farmers, and I think it means a lot to have a farmer actually here today. I'd like to welcome Jenn Pfenning up to the stand so that she can also introduce the leader. Go ahead.
Thank you all of you as journalists, for being here today. What you do every day matters to all of us across this province and across the country and across the world, because without good, accurate information, we can't be informed and make good decisions. I want to thank Stuart Snyder. I'm standing today on his land. He's my neighbor. My farm, my family farm, is less than 2 kilometers as the crow flies, right over there. Both of us have a next generation that's interested in farming. Both of us have a family legacy that will continue if our land stays in farmers' hands. Across this country, farmland is facing a variety of threats. This one is absolutely unimaginable to me, to consider the idea that our government would be taking land from farmers that is growing food to give to a mega industrial site, a for-profit business. Let's be clear, this is not a public good, this is not a hospital, this is not a university, this is not some kind of public infrastructure. This is stealing from farmers to feed multinational corporations that post billions of dollars of profit every year. Shame. That's wrong. I really appreciate that Jodi said protect all farmland, because that really matters. When we're talking about farmland, we're talking about food sovereignty, food security. Food sovereignty is sovereignty. There is no difference. If we can't feed ourselves, we will not be a sovereign nation. And we're hearing, whether it's overblown hot air or what, but we are at risk of losing if we lose the ability to feed ourselves. And the loss of farmland in Canada is unsustainable, it is unacceptable, and we have to stop it. And this land should be protected. It was protected. It was some of the most protected farmland in the country. That's what we thought. Our next generation have banked their futures on it. What are we saying to them? So I want to thank all of these individuals who've put their names forward to serve their communities, to serve our community. And I want to introduce to you the next Premier of Ontario, Marit Stiles.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jen. Thank you to Stuart Snyder for letting us stand here on his farmland, and to all of you for joining us out here today, and to all these wonderful folks behind us who are fighting for farmland and saying no to expropriation in the province of Ontario. Yeah. I'm Marit Stiles. I'm the leader of Ontario's NDP. I am running to be the Premier of this province and to lead a government that is on your side. I want to thank Jodi. The people of Kitchener-Conestoga are so lucky to have you on the ballot. Can I just say that? So lucky. Thank you to Catherine Fife. She has always fought for the people of Kitchener-Waterloo region, and I am proud, so proud, to call her my colleague at Queen's Park. It is great to be back in Wilmot. It is great to be back here. Last spring, I was here with Catherine Fife to hear from farmers and the broader community at a town hall. And boy, did people show up. Let me tell you, I had to give my speech twice because we had to go outside the community center and have a separate meeting outside because there were so many people that came from all over, farmers, community members who wanted to be here because they felt so strongly about their land and their livelihood. And I want you to know I feel that too. It was an honor then to stand alongside you to call for transparency and accountability for farmers that are being forced to sell off their land without even knowing why, and it is an honor to be here again. Let's be clear, this is about people's homes. It is about jobs. It is about family businesses. It's precious farmland that feeds people here in Ontario and beyond. And this is an issue of basic respect for the work that farmers do and for the communities here in Wilmot and all across the Kitchener-Waterloo region. Ontario loses about 320 acres of farmland to development every single day. Let that sink in. That is a deep threat, not just to our province's economy, but to our food security. Because without farmland, there's no food. Less than 5% of Ontario's land can support agriculture. But the farmland that we do have is amongst the best in Canada, amongst the best in North America, held amongst the best in the world. We are proud of it. The agricultural sector contributes more than $50 billion to Ontario's economy and supports more than 870,000 jobs. And while we know that farmers feed Ontario, the biggest market for Ontario food exports like beef and pork, grain products, greenhouse vegetables, is the United States. So today I am back in Wilmot to firmly say that an NDP government will defend farmland, just like we did with the Greenbelt, right, from Doug Ford's developer friends, and we will also stand up to Donald Trump's dangerous tariffs. Every single day, we will treat the people who grow our food and the communities that support them with the respect that they deserve. We will be there to support farmers and farm families no matter what comes our way. I want to tell you, as a little girl, I grew up on a family farm in Newfoundland. I learned one very important thing growing up in rural Newfoundland, and that is never, ever back down to bullies. So we are going to fight. We are going to beat Doug Ford, and then we are going to beat Donald Trump's threats with a smart, tough tariff response that hits back hard. Doug Ford wants us to put our faith in him again, to give him another 4 years. But his own record shows how risky that can be. Ford has shown he can't negotiate, frankly, his way out of a paper bag. Do you really think you can count on Doug Ford to care about you and your families?
Never.
I'll tell you what, you can't. But you can count on me. You can count on me. Over and over again, Doug Ford has made bad deals for Ontarians. Just look at the Greenbelt, where he tried to give away Class A protected farmland to his developer friends. We will not forget that. We held his feet to the fire until he couldn't handle it anymore, and we won. All of us here. We can do that again. We can do that again. This election, this is the time. Doug Ford may have quit his job as Premier, but he has given us an opportunity for your vote to count, to reopen rural emergency rooms, right? To protect Ontario farmland and to respect farmers in the province of Ontario. And I want to add as well, to ensure that the next generation of farmers have a future to invest and believe in. And that means a lot to me, I'll tell you. So with your support, we can elect a government and we can elect a great NDP MPP right here in Kitchener-Conestoga. We can elect NDP MPPs in every riding in the Kitchener-Waterloo region, my friends, and we can elect an NDP government that is on your side. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I'm very happy to take some questions. Yeah.
If you're elected premier, how specifically do you go about protecting farmland from sprawl or expropriation?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it starts from respect for farmers and respect for rural people, right? Because if something comes up, the last thing I'm going to do is come in the back door and slap NDAs on the people of the community, right? That's the last thing. What you do is you sit down and you have a conversation and you work with farmers. But I want to say very, very clearly, this is about livelihood, yes, of the folks that are here with us today. It is about, but it is also, as Jenn pointed out, this is about our food security, our food sovereignty, right? We need to protect farmland. The Greenbelt was put at risk. Doug Ford said he was never going to touch the Greenbelt. I remember it. Do you remember it? I remember it. And then he turned around and he tried to carve it up to benefit his insider friends. We are not going to let that happen. I respect and believe in Ontario farmers, in rural communities, and in protecting their livelihood. And as I said before, I believe we have an opportunity in this election to elect a government that does respect that and respects that industry, right? I mean, I'm at Queen's Park and the farmers associations, the various ones, come to Queen's Park all the time to talk with us. And the Conservative politicians, they nod their head and they say, oh yes, we've got your back. Don't you worry about it, rural Ontario. You can count on us. And then they spend every single day ignoring them and disrespecting them. 320 acres a day of fantastic farmland in this province is disappearing every day. We need to protect it. You can count on me as a government and a premier that will do that.
Use the mic for your
Yeah,
question.
sorry.
And if you can just come up behind me and then go ahead.
So, so how do you protect that farmland? Does the premier have the authority to pass legislation that says you can't build homes on here? You know, it has to remain farmland.
Right.
Like, how do you do that specifically?
Well, first of all, we need to, when we're talking about development, right? And we also need to understand that we can respect urban boundaries and that there is a lot of development that has to and should occur within urban boundaries, right? Lots of room for development within those urban boundaries. And when we're talking about industry coming, like which is I think what we all think this is going to be, then this is really about working together with rural people. Because what has been taken away from the people here in Wilmot and in so many parts of Ontario is respect and the right to protect their farmland. I mean, when you start slapping NDAs on people in communities like this, you send a pretty strong message. There is no accountability. There is no transparency. You have no right to protect your farmland, to protect your livelihood. We're not going to let that happen.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Jeff Pickle, CTV Kitchener.
Hey, Jeff.
So the the two common themes here, transparency and then about the development and what could be. I guess what do you find is more of the point that you're trying to make, or the bigger of those two factors?
Well, I mean, gosh, I don't think you can do it without either of those things. People deserve both transparency and accountability from their government at all levels. And more importantly, and the reason that I'm here today and that this is the first major stop on our campaign tour is because I think that after 7 years of Doug Ford and the Conservatives, life has become more difficult for so many people across the province of Ontario. Doug Ford, yesterday, he quit his job as Premier. He walked away from it. And we have an opportunity now to use the power of our vote here in rural Ontario, all across this beautiful province, to elect a government that will bring back hope and opportunity, that will actually value the work that farmers and farming communities do and their contribution to our province, to our economy. I mean, it is essential. And you know, when I look at the threat that's coming, it has never been more clear how important our food security is right now. So I want my message to be to all Ontarians, but particularly to rural Ontario right now, today, that I will defend you. I will work with all of these people to defend you. You know, this is not just about, it's about food security, it's about your livelihood, but it's about our province and what we stand for. And it means a lot to a lot of people. You know, people live in cities like me who grew up on farms. We care about the future of farming in Ontario, and Doug Ford may have missed that point. But I think a lot of people in this province care, and you saw it with the fight against the Greenbelt when he tried to carve up the Greenbelt. People all across this province, north, south, east, west, everywhere, they got active, they pushed back, we built a movement, and we won. And that's what we're going to do again.
Excellent. And follow up, you know, the message was not development here specifically. Is there a broader message, kind of less area specific about the NDP stance on development? That's and right. Should it be taken that maybe, if not development here, not development other places as well? Could you,
no,
could you
I mean,
take a broader message?
we, you know, if we're talking about housing, for example, and industry, we need housing. We need, actually what we need is deeply affordable housing in the province of Ontario. That housing is not being built, right? Doug Ford said he was going to build all this housing. It's not happening. Housing starts are down in the province of Ontario. They're extremely low right now. We are not building the housing we need. And in communities all across the province of all different size, we need housing and we need affordable housing. But we can build within existing boundaries, and we need to prioritize that. So I am absolutely, you know, pro developing housing and developing industry. What I don't want to see is what's happening, like what's happening here to the 770 acres, where the people whose livelihood depends on it has been shut out with no choice, with no knowledge, with no transparency or accountability. People deserve to be able to make decisions that are going to be good for them and for their family and for their livelihood. And I do worry as well, as Jenn said, about the future of farming in Ontario. I worry. I've spoken and heard from so many people across the province of Ontario who are worried about the next generation of farmers. We need to find ways to encourage and incentivize people to farm, the next generation of farmers. And if we continue to do this, we're sending a very strong message of instability, that you can't count on this for your livelihood, for your future. It is really important that that next generation of farmers believe in farming in this province, see that there's a future in it, and are able to invest in it.
Hi, Marit. Jack Allen from the Trillium.
Hi, Jack.
On tariffs, you say you want to hit back hard, protect workers. Doug Ford saying exactly the same thing. In fact, he's saying that's the whole reason he's calling an election. So beyond what you've said before about your negotiating skills, the differences between you two, what's the actual difference in terms of the plan you have to deal with these potential tariffs?
Well, first of all, I mean, what I'm seeing out there is Doug Ford and a couple of other premiers too, but out there, you know, with a whole bunch of different plans. Often I think his plans are written on the back of a napkin, if I'm honest. And what I want to see is a strong, unified plan, Canada-wide, all levels of government. That is what is missing right now. And I believe that most of the premiers want to see that happen. And they're willing to come together and work together. Doug Ford made a choice the other day to put our province in the most unstable situation by calling an election in the middle of this, I'm going to call it like existential threat to Ontario. He made that choice. He resigned as premier. He quit. And so that gives us an opportunity. And so specifically, I think that what we need to see, and I'm here today with these folks, because I intend to not pit sector against sector, right? I want to send a very strong message that when I am part of that plan to move forward and to hit back against Doug Ford, that we're there to protect every sector. That means mining, it means the auto industry, it means forestry, but it also means farmers, agriculture, that industry. That has to be a part of his plan. And I haven't heard a single word in defense of that sector, or frankly, any kind of plan that seems to make sense right now. So I want to come together, and I want to come together with all levels of government, as is, I think, there is some of this happening. We have a bit of chaos at the federal level too. But it's time to come together, a strong, smart, unified plan, not random threats and am-cam, whatever. Like, honestly, I think it's very risky. And I just wanted to add one more point, which is we are negotiating with ourselves. Number one rule of successful bargaining, do not negotiate with yourselves before you even get to the bargaining table. So I intend to enter this conversation with the U.S. in a smart way and in a unified way with my colleagues at all levels of government across the country.
Speaking of the auto sector, would an NDP government keep EV manufacturer subsidies if the U.S. gets rid of the IRA?
Look, as I said earlier today, I have some concerns that Doug Ford has put a lot of eggs all in one basket. But having said that, I believe in the EV industry. I think it's really important. I'm going to stand up for all auto sector jobs, and I want to be part of the government that's going to continue to build that industry. But I did want to add one other thing when it comes to like how we push back. And it's something that my colleague Catherine Fife has been such a leader on over the years. And that is an NDP government is going to put in place a Buy Ontario procurement policy. It's time we started taking care of jobs here, of industry here in Ontario, by actually investing that way and having a Buy Ontario procurement policy. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate what Jenn said as well about media in this country and in this province. We're really happy you're here, and we really appreciate the role you play in the democratic process and in this election. So thanks so much.